precarious situation here. So here's the scenario. You are planning a lesson and you start trying to think of a few ways to just level up your lesson a little bit, to take it from ordinary to just a little bit extraordinary. The problem is, when you go on Pinterest or you look something up on Instagram, you are quickly met with a flurry of examples of teachers that look like they're all of a sudden putting on a Broadway production in their classroom.
Sing a song and dance a dance.
Now look, I'm all for room transformations and going way over the top, but sometimes a lesson just needs a little bit of magic sprinkled on it, because sometimes those really small shifts have the biggest impact on your classrooms. Today I want to talk to you about a handful of ways that I take like regular stuff and take regular lessons to extraordinary lessons. And at the end of this video, I'm going to share with you a few ways that even if you don't teach high school English, there's a couple of ways that you can take this stuff and transform it into things that you're doing in your own classroom. Let's go. So the first one is creating visuals for what we're reading, like taking what you're reading and making it come alive a little bit. And the reason I love this so much is because something like 65% of learners are visual learners. So creating something tangible and easy so that kids can experience the moment while it's happening in the book really works. And one of the ways that we do that is when we read William Shakespeare's Merchant of Venice. In that book, there are 3 caskets. And in the book, there are these different characters that come and you're trying to win the princess's hand in marriage. You get to choose each one of these caskets and figure out, like, you get to pick one, and if you pick the right one, you win. So when we're doing this, these caskets are in the front of the classroom, and each time I know that one of the caskets is going to get picked. So the first one that gets picked is actually silver, or I think it's gold. Anyway, you can see these are kind of battle worn. I got these boxes at, it was either a craft store or like an office supply store. I spray painted it gold. And then on the inside, the first one is, there's a skull with a scroll in its eyeball. So I went and got these gold flower petals. I got them at Hobby Lobby. I'm gonna link all of the stuff I talk about today in the description below if it's just easier for you to use it that way, or at least to get a visual of what I got. So they were like $5. I think they were 50% off. So I bought these, and then the kids will open this up. They take out the skull, which is just like a cheap plastic skull. And the scroll for this one is in its eye in the story. So then I write, instead of reading in the book what it says, someone has to go up, they open up this one, and then they see what's in there. Super easy, great impact. I do the same thing for the next 2. The next one is the silver box. And this one is supposed to have a gesture in it. But inside, the closest thing I have is a Ronald McDonald puppet.
Why do you even have this?
That's a much longer story, but I'm just going to say they were selling it at a truck stop one time and I picked it up.
That was not weird at all.
So the scroll is in there. The Ronald McDonald puppet is in there. If you can see, I have lights in there as well, which I just bought cheap Christmas lights. I put a hole in the back. I used to have lights also that were battery operated. Those work a whole lot better. But for the purposes of this video, I thought I'd show you both. And Ronald McDonald lights up all around him, and it looks really cool. So the kids don't know that this is going to light up. They don't know what's in the box. Again, they walk up when it's ready, and then this is what they find. And then the last box, in the lead box, which is the winner, spoiler alert, sorry about that, the students open it up, and there's supposed to be a picture of the princess in here. I used to use, I don't even know how I got this. My co-teacher at some point brought in her 8th grade glamour shots picture. I framed it and I put that in the box. Even she didn't know that it was in there. And I just did it because I thought it was hilarious. They got a really big kick. She thought it was great. All the students thought it was great. But you could just find like a picture of a princess that works. And inside, I just have a picture of Princess Peach along with the scroll that goes with that one. And I filled it with feathers. The students like when it's filled with something bizarre. So you could put anything weird in there. It could be a bunch of ribbons or bows or
fingernails,
whatever you can find, but it's just filling it with a lot of something and then putting the picture I thought is just a really fun idea. Now, another way that I kind of level these up, and I didn't have this on the front end, is each one of the boxes, when I set them all up in the front of the room, I have these little placards that they have in the story as well. It is literally just plain white paper that I wrote something neat on the front of it. You could go as far as you want with this. You could go as far as you want with this whole setup. You could put down a tablecloth. You could have fake battery powered candles, which I have also, and I'll link in the description below. You could really take this to the next level with regards to how much production you put behind it, or you could get 3 envelopes instead of caskets. It's just the act of creating something that when we get to it, the students are looking forward to it. They get to open it up, they get to see what's surprising inside, and it takes just a regular passage from a story that you would have just been reading at your desk to something extraordinary. So the next book I want to talk about is the Odyssey. In the Odyssey by Homer, the whole story is predicated on this idea of blind obedience, really. It's Odysseus's men following Odysseus, and then they all die at the end. Spoiler alert again. But when we read it in class, one of the ways I like to start this activity is I take the students into the hallway, and then they have to follow me around. We go on this journey for about 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes, and we go out the school door, we go up the back fire stairway, we jump over railings, we're walking around walls that go around the school. The kids have to follow me, they have to keep up, and they're not allowed to complain. I keep someone back at it's either usually my co-teacher or someone from like our school climate team that stays back at my classroom in case someone gives up along the way, because a lot of kids give up because they can't keep up with me.
Keep up or you'll be left behind.
It's this idea of following me on this journey without talking about it, without complaining, and then we talk about that at the end. Another thing we do with the Odyssey, we also do this with Lord of the Flies, talking about leadership. And we have kids do games outside of the school that are very quick. So one of them is having a tarp on the ground, and the students have to work together to flip that tarp over without stepping off of it. If you step off, then your team loses. So we do it either 2 teams at a time, or we'll have a team go and we count how long it takes them, and then the next team has that much time to try to beat them. And then we talk about things like leadership. We talk about different themes that are in the book. So it's taking some of the themes of what you're talking about, building in an exercise, building in an activity that you can do maybe inside or outside of the classroom that is going to allow you to talk about it, because now kids have personal experience. Now they're just not pulling from their football or cheerleading or whatever memories. We just did this thing. What makes a good leader? What makes a good follower? What makes a good second in charge? And things of that nature that just kind of make it come alive. The third thing is I go to the dollar store is my favorite, because you can get really cheap supplies for little to nothing. And I'm going to say this too on the front end. When you're doing this sort of project, instead of spending your own money, asking the school if they have money, saying, I have this idea that I think is going to level up class for the students, making it about the students. And then, especially if it's something you can reuse, I try to get the school to pay for everything I'm doing so that I'm not paying out of my pocket. So although all these are fairly inexpensive, some of them very inexpensive, it's always a good idea to just ask your school if they have the funds first. Because look, if you don't ask, the answer's already no.
You're like smart.
So I go to the dollar store and I get a bunch of stuff, and I find that feathers go really far. They do make a mess, but it's worth it. And look, if your room is littered in feathers, it's like the prettiest way to have it littered, I guess. And then I do a lot of pipe cleaners and stuff. So when we do Lord of the Flies, one of the things that they talk about, that Golding talks about in the book, is how the boys' appearances change by putting mud on their face or blood on their face, that their hair has there's leaves and feathers, and it depends on which illustrations you're looking at. But one of the things we have the students do is create masks, so that when we're reading this, because we read it as a play, Ralph's sort of tribe, they stay truer to their appearance that they showed up to on the island. Whereas Jack's tribe is kind of descending into madness. And so they change their outward appearance, and that mirrors what's going on inside of them. So we have students make masks that are on that tribe. And it's really simple, it's really easy, and it also gives your creative students an ability to sort of try something, to wear something, to feel what's going on. I've also used Crayola markers in the past, the washable ones. I let students draw on their faces, and I'll tell you what, when it drives a person nuts that's in the class after yours, have kids going to class with marker all over their face, and they just think what is Reynolds even doing in his classroom? It's really fun. So the idea behind this is really creating some sort of costume that's going to go along with this. It could be fake mustaches, it could be wigs, it could be like rubber weapons. There's a lot of different ideas here, but I like the idea of students taking an afternoon, making something, and then being able to wear that in class, and also makes a great classroom decoration when you're finished. And the last one I want to get into before I talk about like how you can do some of these in other classes is when we do characterization, which is something that we look at with every single book. I don't want to just make little handouts and you draw the character's name and their traits and a picture of them. That's fine. And what I'm going to do, what I'm going to talk about isn't so far removed from that, but it's different enough that just makes it special. So one of the things we do is we use Play-Doh. Play-Doh is incredibly inexpensive. You can get it at the dollar store or you can buy it online or in a craft store. And a lot of times you can get it for very inexpensive. Play-Doh works because what we do is we take different colors and we create figures out of our characters. So if you have a character like Piggy, or you have Montag from Fahrenheit 451, I'm blanking, you can take these different characters and pick like a color that might symbolize their color. Or if you have few enough kids, they can use all different colors to create a piece of art that looks like their character. Another way to do this is we've used clay in the past. It is incredibly messy. It gets in kids' clothes and parents will yell at you. The other thing we've done is using just cheap aluminum foil. Again, going to the dollar store, getting aluminum foil somewhere cheap, twisting and turning that to create sort of like action figures as well. And then you can still use like the handwritten portion of it, but it just gives something that's a visual, something that we can put up on the wall, something that, you know, different groups have like all different members of different characters that are in the book. And it's a really fun way for kids to use that manipulative, for them to create something. And I'll tell you what, if you're, especially with older kids, because some of you might be thinking that like high school is not the age to do with this, there's something nostalgic. You pop open Play-Doh and smell fresh Play-Doh, I don't know how old this is. There's just something nostalgic about it. It's a little bit magic. It makes you feel like you're a kid again, and it always goes over really, really well. The other thing we do with characterization is I love letting students write on things that they don't think they should be able to write on. So sometimes that's their desks. Sometimes that's the wall when I have like these big black walls in my classroom and we use chalk. But one of my favorites is on windows. So you can buy these, this is a Dr. Paint marker. You can use this on glass and it comes right off with a paper towel. So I want to show you what this can look like. So let's go check that out. So it's a little bit hard to film this because the light is coming in from outside as well, but you get the gist of it here where you can just take these paint markers. You can also use Expo markers, come off with a dry paper towel. This you do have to use Windex for if you use something like a window marker sometimes, but it comes off easily. It doesn't ruin anything. And I just let students draw. So they might draw a character like Piggy or Ralph, where they are drawing what's the visage say about them? What does some of their props say about them? You know, making sure Piggy has his glasses. You could make Ralph look a little fitter because he does in the book. You could do this with symbols and have different symbols from different books. The fun thing is, as a kid, having at least the feeling of being able to do something that you don't think you're supposed to be doing, but that the teacher is telling you can do, like draw on the windows or use Expo markers on your desk or write on the walls. That is the extra special thing. It doesn't take a full room transformation. It takes a little bit of willingness, a little bit of cleaning up afterwards, but you know, they sell all different sizes of these sort of things. They have smaller window markers, larger window markers. So they have an array of colors. And like I said, you can use Expo as well, but it is absolutely something that will sprinkle magic on your class. All right, so as promised, here's just a few quick ideas of how you might be able to implement this in classrooms that are not high school English classrooms. I think Play-Doh could be incredible to do things like parts of a cell or to create a cell and then put the pieces on there so you have like your mitochondria and your nucleus and things like that you are creating a model of something. And this can be done in all different classes, but it's simply having that manipulative, having that visual, and having that artistic ability that goes along with doing a project like that. I think using something like a window marker is an awesome way to do math. If you have big windows in your classrooms, having kids do math problems, there's a lot of research that shows that having students all standing up at a wall working on math, it keeps them quiet, it gets them focused, they can't see anybody else, and you could sort of just stand back and see everyone that's working. So you could have kids on your whiteboards, but if your windows work just as well, doing math on your windows is a great idea. This also works with sidewalk chalk. Taking sidewalk chalk outside and having students draw on the ground is another fun way that we've done this in the past. And then when I think about creating visuals, I think about, like, if you're in a civics class or history class, recreating some of those moments. So having something like a protest in your hallway, creating signs for protests, getting a scripted, like a portion of a play that's going to reenact sort of a courtroom battle scene or something of that nature. But finding ways that you can just take small part of what you're doing and making it extraordinary. This is a day out of the week or a half day or the part of a period to make what's regular be something that kids are going to remember for the rest of their lives.
Forever, forever, ever, forever, ever.
I would love to know, before you go, if you could put in the comments section, as this is a communal conversation here, what are some ways that you take things that are ordinary and make them extraordinary in your classroom? Or maybe one of your favorite memories growing up as a kid, like you had a teacher that did something that was irregular in the most magical and fantastic way possible. I'd love to hear about that in the comment section. And please give this a thumbs up. It really helps us kind of get to the next teacher that might really need it. That's it for this time, gang. Peace.